New Balance has been trying to perfect their marathon racer for years. The first one was too firm. The second one, too soft. Now this is the Super Comp Elite 3, and this year, it's just right. Two runs so far for a total of over 30 miles in the SC Elite version 3, including an 18-miler straight out of the box, where I did a variety of easy marathon and threshold paces. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe and how it's been treating me so far, I do want to go over some disclosures. This particular pair of SC Elite version 3 is a pair that I purchased myself. No one sent it to me and no one's paying me to make this video. However, I will also disclose that I'm going to be running New York Marathon this year on a New Balance bib. New Balance is the title sponsor, and they've invited me to come out there and run this race. And they've also been sending me some training kit and some additional shoe support along the way in preparation for this race. So with all that being said, let's talk about my thoughts on the New Balance SC Elite version 3. First, let's go over some specs on this shoe. We've got two layers of fuel cell in this shoe. There's a top layer kind of above the blue and red band that's a little bit firmer. And then we have a bottom layer, which is also still called fuel cell, which is a little bit softer underneath this band. That carbon fiber plate is set in a configuration and shape that New Balance is calling its energy arc. It's kind of got two very prominent features for it. It starts out very high in the heel and then curls down very aggressively to get low to the ground. And also the carbon fiber plate itself is cambered. In other words, it's not just like a regular kind of plate, which looks a lot like kind of like an insole in your shoe, but instead this one is actually curved from the lateral to the medial side. What that does is create an additional kind of element of rigidity as your foot is hitting the ground when you are landing in the midfoot or even further back if you are a heel striker. As far as stack heights go, I believe this is a 35 millimeter stack height shoe in the heel with a 4 millimeter drop. On the outsole, we've got a reconfigured rubber pattern and definitely a different kind of like midsole outsole shape altogether. Last year, we had like a little tiny window into the carbon that you could see in the RC Elite 2. This year, because of the way that this energy arc design works, there's a giant cutout through the middle of the shoe where there isn't any foam at all, and instead you've got these kind of two parallel kind of like canyon walls of that fuel cell foam with a little bit of rubber to protect that foam from the wear and tear from the road. You've also got this giant rubber kind of pad right here directly adhered to the carbon fiber plate, and that's to protect that carbon fiber plate from any time that this area of the shoe may hit the ground when your foot strike hits that forefoot area. Up top, we've got an overall silhouette that I think is very similar to last year's excellently fitting RC Elite 2, but this year they've taken it a step, I feel like, in a better direction for me as a person who has always loved knit uppers. And now we see a knit tongue kind of replacing the tongue system that they had in the shoe last year. Otherwise, the shoe for me fits very similarly. And by that, I mean that there's plenty of room in the toes. The upper material is very stretchy and forgiving, while it still overall keeps the foot well locked into place during those faster efforts on those longer runs. And this New York City edition of the SC Elite version 3 has the NYC lettering on the arch, the marathon logo badging on the tongue, and it's also got New York City Marathon insole as well. Altogether, this shoe comes in at a relatively heavy weight for a marathon racer, 228 grams and 8.0 ounces. All right, so with those specs out of the way, let's talk about what it was like to run in this shoe. I feel like this shoe is a fantastic improvement over last year. Last year's RC Elite 2 was already a really good marathon racer. I chose it to run the California International Marathon last year, and I felt like it was a shoe that overall treated me really well, but it was a shoe that was a little bit too squishy and lacked a little bit of pop. This year, they've solved both of those problems where the foam has firmed up a little bit while still being one of the softest, most cushioned super foams on the market. And that carbon fiber plate has been retuned to give it a little bit more pop, that little something extra that I'm always looking for that separates a really good speed workout shoe from a marathon racer. Another shoe that I think this warrants comparison to in the New Balance lineup is the SC Trainer that came out earlier this year. It's a shoe that looks a lot like this, except there's just much more foam in the heel and a similar energy arc design. I think the main way that this SC Elite version 3 differs from the Super Comp Trainer is this is certainly more race oriented. And the reason why I think that is I feel like they took some of the extra foam in the heel, which as someone who's a forefoot striker, I didn't really always take advantage of, and they shifted a lot of that to the forefoot. I feel like there's a lot more foam underneath the carbon fiber plate in the SC Elite compared to the SC Trainer, and I definitely appreciate that feeling, that nice level of squish and quick response that I want in a shoe that has a so-called super foam in it. The other thing that I'll note is it doesn't mean that this is just a forefoot striker shoe. I still think, just like with the SC Trainer, the SC Elite version 3 benefits midfoot strikers the most, and probably also heel strikers as well because of that energy arc design. The same mechanics that I felt in the SC Trainer, I definitely feel in the SC Elite version 3, which is that when you're landing in the midfoot or even further back, the way that that energy arc design is putting that carbon plate really high up in the back of the foot, I think that when you land in the midfoot or land towards the heel, it kind of springs it down, and that wants to then decompress, and it kind of lifts up your heel from the back in a little bit of a springing motion. And then as your foot is getting picked up, you're loading the front part of the carbon that then also has an additional level of pop as you're taking off into that next stride. So you're kind of getting like two different levels of bend on the carbon with this energy arc design, which for me, I don't always hit. Like when I'm at threshold paces, I don't feel it. At some of my marathon paces, especially when I'm getting a little bit more tired, that's usually when I'll feel kind of like that double pop. And it's a really interesting feeling that I think can help a lot of runners, especially when you're starting to get a little bit more tired. So overall, what I think New Balance has done is taking the RC Elite 2 from last year, which I thought was a really good shoe, fixed all the things that were wrong with it, and have given us a new shoe that has a really great level of familiarity with it. And I'm very excited to be taking the SC Elite version 3 for my first time running the New York City Marathon. This shoe it comes and goes. It seems like there's been some stocks and restocks of this shoe, but my size 9 seems to be coming and going right now. As of the time of this filming, there aren't any. But I do know that New Balance is going to be bringing a bunch of this shoe to the New York City Marathon Expo, as well as having lots of demo units available to some of the shakeout runs that you can go to. I'll be hosting one at Friday at 1 p.m. and then I'll be attending another one that Believe in the Run is hosting on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. So you get a chance to try this shoe out there if you're really curious about how this shoe really feels for your feet. Also, it'll be a great time to get some miles together and just hang out. So hopefully I'll see you at one of those two events. If you have any other questions about the SC Elite version 3, feel free to put them in the comments down below. Otherwise, feel free to stop by the live stream I do Monday through Friday, although this week, because of the travel going to New York City Marathon, it'll only be Monday through Wednesday, 1 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully, I'll see you there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully, you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?